Movement in Mario vs Donkey Kong is one of the most essential things in the game. Having good movement can make or kill a run. There are tons of hard tricks that make up this run, but most of the time it's small movement optimizations that make it possible to make certain cycles. Today we're going to take a deeper look in the movement of this game and the general do's and don'ts. First we're going to look at the basic movement tricks. I'm going to be categorizing them from easy to hard. I will also look into some stages in detail that can't be explained with any of the moves mentioned in the video. You can see this as a movement guide, but also as a starter guide to do runs effectively. Starting off with the easy category, we have jumping. So pretty basic. Whenever you jump, the first 2 frames that you land, you actually accelerate ever so slightly. So what's faster is technically to land exactly 2 frames every time and then jump again. So it's not faster to frame perfectly jump every time. It is, however, faster to land at least for 2 frames, because it's the acceleration from landing that actually gives you speed and not the jumping itself. Second big thing to take in mind are backflips. So there are a lot of multiple ways to do backflips. You can just do a normal backflip. You can do that by, when you're running forward, pressing right and jump. Or when you wanna, say I'm walking to the left and wanna flip to the left as well. What you can do is you can do left, right, and then jump. But as you can see, that's pretty slow. So what you can do instead is do what we call a crouch flip in speedrunning. So a crouch flip is performed by pressing, when you run to the left, press down, right, and then left, and then jump. Why is this faster? Because the animation of turning around is pretty slow, while the animation of crouching and then doing a flip is pretty fast, as you can see. Technically, it also works with a grab, so you can grab and then backflip, but I wouldn't rely on it. It's something more for controller players. If you're playing keyboard, which is the most optimal way of playing this game, you probably should just be doing crouch flips anyway. You can also, like when landing from jump, already be tilting to the right, which makes you also able to instantly initiate the backflip in the same direction as you're running. So that one is a little bit easier than the crouch flip for controller players, at least. That's what I used to do. Since I resorted to keyboard, I never used it anymore. Just a general thing to also keep in mind is that it's way faster to jump off platforms than walking off them. So when I'm standing here and I want to go to the key, and I fall and then start running, you see that Mario slows down a lot by walking off a ledge. If you instead jump off that same ledge, you can see that Mario just keeps his speed and doesn't even lose any speed if you compare this and this to each other. But it makes, I think on this stage it makes a 0.2 difference between jumping and not. If you do this, or you land on this and then walk off, that I think it saves like 0.2 by doing that, pretty sure. Another thing to keep in mind are ladder jumps. Maybe this is not the best stage to demonstrate it, but I can show you the idea. So as you can know, you can jump on the ladder and it's faster than walking up or down. There are some spots on the ladder where you can see that you can't really jump properly, and you're losing a lot of time if you do that, of course. Something like this can screw your run over really bad. So what I recommend to start with is to just do jumps like on spots on the ladder where you know that you're not going to get screwed. Where you're going to get screwed around this general area when you jump, you're not going to be able to climb on the ladder. However, and this is a more advanced trick, so I should probably put it in the medium category, but I'm not going to make a separate clip for that. When you're on top of a ladder, in certain positions you can already start jumping up from the ladder, and you're seeing this a lot in dance because it's a lot faster than just climbing up the ladder and then starting to jump. So what the dance describes is that the first frame, as you're leaning over, that's the best frame to jump when you have to cross a vertical distance. So here, when jumping here, you want to cross a vertical distance. If you want to cross a horizontal distance, it's best to initiate your jump as late as possible. So the later you initiate your jump, the more sideways momentum you can get from this kind of jump. So these kind of jumps can save quite some time. I think 0.1 on some of the stages, but it's risky and you can also lose time to that. Next general thing to keep in mind is that it's faster to fall off ledges straight vertically rather than to the side. So I want to go to the right in this instance. So what I can do is I can run off and then run to the right. But as you can see, you're gaining a lot of momentum to the left from that, which loses a lot of time, of course. So what you can do is, as you're falling off the ledge, hold neutral, and you'll always fall straight down. And if you then combine it with the fact that it's faster to jump to accelerate, then you have the perfect way to get around this block. However, when you're holding an item like a key, an enemy, a barrel, doesn't really matter, just holding any item, you can do what we call a back tilt. So what is a back tilt is you can jump in a general direction, like so let's say left, and then hold right to tilt backwards behind the ledge. And in this stage, there's a particular instance for this, which makes you able to clip through this platform, which is, I just demonstrated there. It's pretty difficult. I wouldn't recommend actively going for it, but it can happen, and it is the fastest way to cross this gap here. Another big thing that's important to know is subpixel shuffling. So when you're on the platform and you want to shuffle perfectly one subpixel to the left, you can press right, left very fast. And every time you do this, you move one subpixel to the left. So right now you'd say, okay, if I walk one more pixel to the left, it's gone. No. So I can still walk some pixels to the left before falling off. That's because it's actually based on subpixels as well. So whenever you do this, you move exactly one subpixel to the left. And as you can see, I'm getting the exact same results every time, even though I'm doing literally nothing different. This can be used in several occasions in the game, mainly here, but also for 3DK if you want to set up for rehits. So it's important to know that whenever you do this, you move exactly one subpixel to the left. So the first entry for the medium category are key jumps. When I first started running the game, I would have never even thought about putting this one in the medium category. I would have immediately placed it into the hard category. However, this trick isn't hard at all. It's medium at best. Some could even call it easy. It's one of the more niche tricks in this game, meaning that it doesn't have a lot of applications. There's not a lot of stages where you can actually actively use key jumps and be faster. So key jumps, or BBA, as some people call it, because BBA are the inputs that you do, aren't that hard, and I counted it once, it's a quarter of a second of a frame window that you have. So you have a quarter of a second to jump after you threw the key. So you have a little bit of leeway when practicing it for the first time. I would just recommend practicing it like this, just making a safe state and jumping over and over on top of the key. If you jump on top of the key, that means that you're doing it as fast and efficiently as possible. However, if you do it too fast, if you jump too fast after throwing the key, you'll fall through, and I'll try to demonstrate that, but it's difficult to do it here. At least when you jump too fast, you can fall through, because it takes a while after the key lands before you can stand on top of it again. That's also important to keep in mind. Another thing that's really important in this game are rope strats. Even though ropes seem pretty easy and not that complicated, there's many ways to do ropes. So you can like swing around these, and you'll be fast, okay, but you're not being as efficient as possible. There are multiple ways you can cross. The general idea is that jumping from a rope is faster than just swinging in between them. Getting a hang of when to jump is really important. So basically what's the fastest method is, as soon as you start going to the next rope, then jump. this gains the most amount of time. Because you first get a boost from grabbing this rope, and then you immediately jump, which makes it the fastest method. If you wait slightly longer, it will work as well. If you wait too long, then you will just jump from the next rope. But you can basically skip a rope by doing stuff like that. It has applications in this stage, but also in 2-6. Another medium trick are mid-air pounder jumps. They only have one application in the game, and it's for this stage. It's basically a timing thing. So basically you have to get down the timing for this. There's really not a lot to explain about. It's just triple jump and perfectly do the second jump at the right time. It technically works without pounders, but I wouldn't recommend going for it here because it doesn't save enough time. But in the beginning of the stage, it is required to make the fastest cycle. Otherwise, you're gonna have to wait the cycle, which loses a lot of time. I recommend practicing this a lot, or either be consistent at it or don't go for it at all, because you can lose a lot of time when you screw it up. Okay, I'm just going to make Final Decay a separate category in this entry. So basically what is going on in this stage, for those who don't know, is that you're literally on a timer. Because if you're too slow, and I'll save state here to make it clear, if you're too slow, you're gonna lose 10 seconds. Why? Because it's RNG based when Decay throws this. It's not RNG based. It's RNG based how the big barrel down here moves, and you need the perfect timing from the beginning of the level to make sure that it takes the shortest amount for the barrel to go off screen, because then it will take less long for the next big barrel to appear. And clearly you need big barrels, because only when the big barrel appears, the toads will pick it up and bring it to you. So what is the timing for this trick, you ask? The timing is to put that blue key into that keyhole just after 285 seconds, so 284. When it just appears on the screen, then you have to put the key in the keyhole. And what you'll see is that this barrel will go off screen off the right side. Then you know that you've done it right. Then it means that you got the right RNG cycle, and the next big barrel will appear immediately. If you miss it, and I'll demonstrate, so I did it purposely later, then you'll see that the Donkey Kong barrel will go to the left, and the next big barrel won't come immediately. So now he first throws another small barrel before throwing another big barrel, which loses about 10 seconds as far as I'm concerned. He even throws three small barrels? I didn't know that. So at least you're losing 10 seconds if you miss that one, because it takes a lot longer before he throws his next big barrel. So 284, just barely 284 is what you're aiming for. The other stuff that you do in the level really doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that you get a 284 on the blue key. Don't ask me why it happens. I've tried different timings. The fastest one was 284, a high 284, and it's pretty precise. So if you miss that cycle, you're gonna lose a lot of time. And now for rehits. So rehits are a special thing in this game. So normally if I just throw this barrel, I'd have to go down, wait for him to throw another big barrel, and then take that big barrel all the way up and hit Donkey Kong again. In the beginning of the speedrun, Blaze used to do that. By now we already know that this is not the fastest way to do it. So we can do rehits. And what are rehits? Rehits are reusing the barrel, so it's pretty self-explanatory. The thing is, there are 2 pixels you can do it. The first one is this one. You have to look at the pixel at the middle of Mario, at his shoes actually. If it lines up perfectly with the platform, that's a good pixel. So I'll try to show it. This pixel works, so when it lines perfectly up with the edge of the platform. So this works, and 1 pixel to the right as shown here. Those 2 pixels work, other pixels don't work. So if I do this, it won't work. If I go too far to the left, it won't work either. So it's either this one or 1 pixel to the left. So those 2 pixels work. Sub-pixels don't really matter for this fight. For the second hit, the re-hits are slightly more forgivable. So what I recommend is standing here. That way you can get a good feeling for it. When the back of your shoe is behind the platform like this, you can throw and it works perfectly. If you're slightly ahead and you start throwing barrels, then you know that you're doing it wrong. So if he freezes, then you're doing it very well. So this is perfect. You can even be slightly more to the left and it's pretty forgivable. I think this still works. I've got to be careful with what I'm saying. Yes, this still works. So you have like, I think for this one you have like 4, maybe 5 pixels. I never counted them, but it's pretty forgivable, so it doesn't really matter. And just for the last hit, you just throw the barrel at Donkey Kong. You can do that from here, or you can throw it from above, like most normal players do, but I don't like that. So that's everything for Final Decay. The first thing on the hard entries are IFJs. You probably saw that one coming. IFJs is short for invincibility frame jumps, and it just means that as long as you have upwards momentum, Mario can jump through certain enemies and certain projectiles. So as you can see, the trick in itself is pretty forgivable. So as long as you have upwards momentum from a jump, so as long as you're going up, you're not going to get hit by the barrel. As you can see, I only get burnt as soon as I start falling. So that's normal behavior for this game. However, in this stage, it's really unforgivable because you have to jump as late as possible to get through the oil barrel. If you have a fast cycle, you can slightly run underneath the barrel here before jumping through. So those are IFJs. They're used all over the place, and it works on most enemies and mostly fire. There are a lot of applications for this. In 1-2 that's one, and in World 3 there are a lot of applications as well. The next big thing to take into account are up rope jumps. What is an up rope jump, you ask? So an up rope jump is when you're jumping up a rope vertically. You can do this by jumping neutral and then pressing a directional input. So as you can see, normally if I just jump, you grab the rope as well, but if I just jump again, it doesn't do anything anymore. So when you're jumping neutral, you can just jump straight up a rope, and if you press a directional button at the peak of your jump, then you're gaining the most height possible. Why is this important, you ask? In this stage, and as I'm demonstrating, it is required, not basically required, it just saves 7 seconds by doing it compared to the normal route. Which is kind of insane for any strat in the game to save 7 seconds, and it's done just by doing one specific mechanic. And this stage, we're also using the fact that you can go into the platform here to jump on top. I'm always doing the same inputs here to make sure that I always land up on that spot. So what I do is 2 up rope jumps, 1 to the sides, and the ones to the side are slightly more forgivable because they're slightly easier to pull off. You can see the inputs on screen. It's difficult to explain what I'm doing. But the up rope jumps are something to really practice. Once you get used to them, you are gaining a lot of time with it. So by example, normally we'd finish the stage about like this time, like 220 seconds. So just try to get a good general feel of it. This is an easier stage to practice it on. Because yeah, there are a lot of ropes, and even though I screwed up here, I still saved 4 seconds compared to the normal route. So even if you don't do it perfectly, it's still faster. And just knowing up rope jumps helps you in a lot of situations in the rest of the game. Then the last trick in the game, it should earn a separate category in my opinion, but I'm not gonna make an almost impossible category just for this trick. So it are 3DK re-hits. I've made a bad re-hit guide once, but I don't have it public, I think. If you want it, you can always DM me on Discord. Discord is also in the description. I will link it. Yeah, I will link it down there. So basically, we talked about re-hits before on Final Decay, right? Normally, you hit DK with a barrel and he the barrel dies and you have to wait for him to throw it again. However, when you stand on this specific pixel, and it's a pixel, yeah, it's a sub-pixel perfect thingy. So you have to stand on this specific subpixel. You can do it easily by standing here, and then subpixel shuffling until you see that you're at this pixel. Just watch for the shoe, and you'll see which pixel I mean. What you then have to do is jump, hold right, and press B as soon as you land. It's frame perfect. I can get it quite consistently, but I'm almost positive it's frame perfect because I've tested it. Just throw when you land, hold right, throw when you land, and then you should get it consistently. It takes a while to get used to the timing, but it's something to keep in mind. We're not going to be doing this in speedruns anytime soon, because it only saves like 6 seconds per hit you do, and it's really risky, and if you miss a throw, you die. So that was the last trick in the book. Now the general do's and don'ts. The general do's and don'ts that I've already talked about is to jump off ledges rather than walking off them, to jump immediately after landing, as we saw in 1-2 as well. And another important thing is to watch out for jump cooldown. What I mean with this is that after grabbing an item, as I can demonstrate on 1DK, so after grabbing an item, it takes a while before you can jump. As you saw here, I grabbed the item, and it takes a while before I can actually jump again. It's easier to show when you're standing on the ground. So when grabbing an item, it takes a while before you can jump. In this fight, in particular, it's important to take that into account, because otherwise, sometimes you're just gonna run off a platform. Also, there's not a lot of coyote time in this game, so as soon as you're close to the edge of a platform, you usually want to avoid jumping as late as possible, because you can lose your jump from that as well. Losing your jump is something you'll get a feel for after a while. When I started speedrunning, I always blamed the game for losing jumps, but it's actually always the player that is to be taken into account for losing jumps. Now for some notes. There are some things that aren't done in the speedrun, but that are technically faster. By example, in this stage, you can throw the key at the perfectly edge here, and it will fall down. It's the fastest way to do this stage, but it's really inconsistent to do. Second small thing is slow grabs and fast grabs. So in this game, after you land, there's a small cooldown, I should say, where you can't grab an item. So if sometimes when you land, you can't immediately grab an item, as you saw there, by example. When I landed, I grabbed B, but it didn't work immediately. Sometimes this happens in this game, that after landing from a conveyor or just from a platform onto a platform where you have to grab something, you'll sometimes get what I call a slow grab. Why is that important, you ask? First of all, you're losing time with it every time it happens. Like, by example, in this stage, getting a fast grab makes you able to get this cycle. If you get a slow grab, you can't make this cycle at all. So that's an application for that. Then for some tricks that you can't really explain without the situation. So the first one is Mini Mario manipulation. It's really difficult to talk about this one because we don't fully understand how it works. But I'll try to show what just happened. So the thing is, I'll tell you the setup first and then explain what happens. The setup is you jump 3 times, then you backflip when you land at this block, and you backflip again when you're around at this block. Then you wait for the Mini Mario to die and you hit the yellow switch. So the thing is that the Mini Mario gets stuck there in the yellow block. Sorry, the Mini Mario is down there at the laser, and when he dies for some reason, he still has collision, and he gets like kind of teleported downwards, which makes him barely able to grab that O, which is a really weird trick, but it's important to look at for the setup. These backflips, the timing of these backflips are essential. If you do the first one too late, you'll notice that no Mini Marios will go down, and if you do the second one too late or too early, then it won't work either. So what's important is that you have to the fire has to be around where the line is between the blocks. You have to aim for that general area. If you do that and then that twice, then it should be perfect. The second thing to talk about is 6x6 Orb. So this is a very special stage, being that it's the only stage that we do faster than Death, except for Final Decay, because Death didn't know about Final Decay manipulation. So what we are trying to do is trying to clip into the platform here, which is barely possible because we're landing on top of the Shy Guy and then ceiling ducking over and over again. So ceiling duck boosts your speed a little bit every time you press down in an enclosed area. It's basically to prevent soft locks when getting stuck in an area like that. So what's the timing for this trick, you asked? It's difficult to explain, but it's like it's a sound cue that I go for when doing runs. So I'm gonna be quiet and I'm just gonna try to jump when I know I have to jump, and you can listen at which beat I'm pressing jump. Second most important thing is to hold left and down for that trick, and then just to instantly start meshing as fast as possible. For this trick I mesh with my right hand because my left hand is too slow. So I switch hands and I duck when he shoots the wrench. And after that I just mesh with left because then I can just press jump with my right hand again. That's how I usually do this trick. A visual cue could be looking at the blue laser, and as soon as it fires, press the first jump. But it's slightly more difficult to do. If you miss the first cycle, I'll try to think of the visual cue. I think it's the red laser firing. No, I think it's the yellow laser firing actually. Yeah, it's a yellow laser firing for the second cycle, so it's a pretty convenient visual cue as well. But I like to go for sound cue for first cycle and visual cue for second cycle. So that was it for this general movement guide. If you have any more questions about the movement in this game or any of the specific tricks, I highly suggest to join the Discord as mentioned in the description. Also, I just want to bring out the fact that if you're starting to run this game, to not focus yourself on getting all the hardest strats immediately, but to focus on getting consistent with the movement first and then progressively getting the hardest strats in. If you want to learn the route, I'd suggest looking at the world records and looking at previous runs from the past, like from Violin, to check the easiest strats and the hardest strats we do today. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video.